Hey guys, welcome to another Minute with Drew. So this weekend, I attended the Virtual Synthesia 2021 convention. This convention exhibits some of the newest and most popular items that the big manufacturers in the electronic music industry have out right now. One new piece of gear I was really intrigued by is Korg's new OP6 synthesizer. This is a 6-operator FM synthesizer that allows users to adjust their parameters in a way that you only really see on analog synthesizers. Non-keyboard players out there will know the typical FM sound due to the famous Yamaha DX7. Now, the DX7 had a very non-intuitive way of adjusting parameters, that being very deep menu diving. And that's why you heard so many of the same presets in every single song in the 80s. The menu was just too large and daunting for most musicians to handle. However, the OP6 takes all those menus and formats it into knobs and faders that are right on its front panel. It's super easy to adjust parameters because all you have to do is turn a knob. It also really helps those people who don't fully get FM synthesizer to understand how that type of synthesis works. Just check out some of the sounds this little keyboard can make, they're pretty unreal. But today on the show, Ricky interviews Jon Rubin of SKYFACTOR. They talk about trying to break into the music industry in the late 90s and early 2000s, and the different ways you can make a living in the music industry, even in the turbulent times that we are living in now. Hope you enjoy. See ya.
Well, folks, welcome to the bedroom one more time. We had a green screen, and notice I say we had. Due to a production error, the green screen is down, going back to Amazon. So, in all my glory, I'm going to just talk to Jon Rubin from the New York band SKYFACTOR. Jon, how long have you been performing?
God, in SKYFACTOR, we've been playing since 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be coming up on 16 years.
Okay.
But as I was reminded earlier today, my first paying gig in a bar was the last day of high school for me. So I was a very young 17, and that would mean I've been playing music professionally for over 30 years.
Okay, I was going to say 3 years, but yeah, you're a little older.
You're too kind. But yeah, it's been 3 full decades in a variety of capacities, but SKYFACTOR has been the last 15 years.
Okay. Now, SKYFACTOR's acoustic driven. I call it a sunshiny sound. It makes me smile. How many albums total?
We have 4 records, 4 albums since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to put out an album every 2 to 4 years based on the world around us and the overhead of our mortgages and job security and all these things. But the truth is we have 4 records. And we like to tour and play a lot of shows in the tri-state area, really focus on New York for a year or 2 after the record's out, get people to enjoy the music. And then that's sort of around that 2-year mark is where we start writing new tunes and then testing those out on stage. And then we record for another year. So it's 4 albums over 15 years. But I kind of like the way we pace ourselves because cool stuff happens in between. And, we try to make sure that each record is stronger and better and more diverse and more mature than the last. And I think if we were to, release an album every year or kind of the way the bands you and I love used to do it back in the day, you almost don't have as much time or life experience to inform the next stage. So we kind of sort of take our time. And I hope to think that the results are worth it.
Well, your latest and probably greatest album, I think they're all great, right? It's 1,000 sounds, right?
It's a greatest hits record, except all these songs are out for the first time.
Oh, I like that.
Can I tell you something about that makes me laugh?
Yes.
My old band, which was also with my brother, we could talk about the guys in the band after, but my old band, for many years, that band that I played that first gig ever with, at this little crappy club in White Plains, New York, when I was 17, that band, we always thought every song was a number 1 hit. We thought every song was the best. And so we were going to name our first album Greatest Hits. No one knows you. No one's ever heard of you. The album's called Greatest Hits. I thought that was a ballsy move, but we never did that.
Kid Rock said when he inducted Cheap Trick that every musician thinks every gig is the best gig and that they're the best until you see Cheap Trick live. But I've seen you live. You guys are gosh darn good. Sorry for the language.
And I've seen you at many of our shows, and let me just say that people like you who have supported, live independent music for so long really make it all worth it. I'll just put that out there to begin with. That is extremely valuable and means so much. That's why bands like us, still do what we do.
Well, you know what? I think I'm blushing now.
Oh.
I'm just along for the ride. With your last album, you did a recent video for a very upbeat song during a very tough time. It's 1,000 sounds, unless I got that wrong again. It has about 50,000 views. I said that's a really good accomplishment these days, considering most of the bands I like that have, and they have labels behind them, they're lucky to get half that. A lot of them get under 10,000. Okay. Another song, Come Away, has about 43,000, 44,000 views too. Considering everything that's out there, Spotify has 40,000 uploads a day. iMusic, 50 million tunes. Amazon, the same. Pandora, just a bit behind. I said, how do you stand out, in this day and age like that? How do you get those views?
Yeah, I mean, that probably has a deeper answer than I'd be able to put words to, because the reality is that we just do what we do. We do our music. We make music we love. We make music that resonates with us. That means something reflective of our influences and sort of what happens when the four of us get together. So if that yields a sound that is upbeat or sunny, as you said, or fun or inspiring, all the things that we kind of do strive to be, right. I just feel like that would relate. When short of being a world famous band, I think music like that will always find a home with people who relate to wanting to feel that way. And I think really dark, obscure indie stuff has just as valid an audience. I think it may sometimes be harder to find, but our sound, we're very lucky. We keep it, down the middle. We're very pop rock driven, a lot of major key stuff. Our singer has a really warm, kind of friendly voice. And we've just been lucky that a lot of people who get turned on to us from their friends, more times than not, are like, oh, wow, I love these guys. Like, this feels good. This feels right. It's not some very odd particular sound that you'd have to really be into, like Icelandic metal on a Tuesday to be like, yeah, I like that sound. Our music feels good to a lot of people. And so we've been lucky. The response has always been really positive.
Well, talk about your band members for a second. You've always been playing since I've known you with your brother Cliff. Hasn't worked out so well for the Davies brothers of Kinks, nor the Gallagher brothers of Oasis. Is it
even Space Hog? I don't know if those guys talk either.
Yes. Well, I was going to leave them out because I'm hoping they're going to get back together.
Yes, me too. I hope that every day, actually.
But how is it? You play with your brother. You guys live pretty close together, don't you?
Yeah, we're about 15 minutes apart.
Okay.
But back in the day, I mean, we lived together. We shared an apartment together.
Right.
The early days, obviously, we grew up together. So yeah, we've always been, kind of in very close quarters, if that's where your question is going, how to make it work with a family member, right?
Exactly.
The key is we're just far apart enough in age. I know he'll kill me for saying that, but he's just enough older than me that we were never in like direct competition with each other the way you hear about brothers, a year or two apart, or twins or anything like that. So we're really similar in a lot of ways, but there's enough space between us where he really taught me my first stuff on guitar when I was like, a young kid, and he was more of a teenager. So we kind of benefited from that. We've always had this musical bond without the competition, and we're very different and similar at the same time, that we've been able to get through trickier decisions or band dynamics and things in the past that have been really with our former band, not even the current band, things that required that other bands would break up over. And we always realized we just love making music together. We think very similarly. So why let a good thing go? We just never fight, to be honest.
Well, if Cliff is older, he's got a heck of a skin regimen. I thought you guys were pretty real close in age, to be honest with you.
But we get along as if we've, always been making music together. And really my earliest memories are doing that with him. Right. And my favorite band in the world, which doesn't really sound like Sky Factor, but it's the reason I play guitar, is Kiss. And right. I don't know that I would have had that exposure to classic, mid 70s Kiss if I didn't have an older brother. So I'm very grateful for that. So I let him play in the band with me.
Yeah. Well, you can tell you guys get along when I see you perform. You can tell you get along when you hear your music. It's a very good dynamic, and you guys are pretty lucky, to be honest with you.
We do tell each other that a lot, including the rest of the band. Our singer Bob, I've known also probably maybe it's been 20 years now through just social circles and a band he was singing in at the time. My old band, we did a couple of gigs with, and we always knew that other band that he was in, which also had our drummer Jason in that band. Right. So Bob and Jason have been in a band forever, so they have this kind of kinship. My brother and I, obviously, and then together, it was like, a lot of bands are four strangers answering ads and hoping that there's some common thread. And we sort of skipped all that, which we're really lucky for. I think that's why we're together after all this time. Whoops.
Well, it's all the songs, we'll cover that up. Don't worry about it.
We'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. Yes.
Nice. Probably, I know you will. You better.
No, probably not. This is going to be the rawest thing you've ever been involved with. Sorry about that.
And if you lost your green screen, I don't think you have somebody to professionally edit my flubs, and I'm okay with that.
All right. Well, thank you. No, I know where it is. I just can't put it up. Yeah, it was a disaster. So that's why you got to open something a week before you want to use it. To tell you the truth,
right?
Like Christmas.
Not everything bigger is better, as we've learned with green screens.
I was going to say that joke. However, I was going to be the mature one of this, but
sorry, beat you to it.
Thank you. Thanks. So, over the
free sound effects courtesy of Sky Factor.
Over the years, you've had songs featured on TV shows, right?
Yes.
Okay. For someone that's starting out today, how do you do that? Is there a process, or are you just going to say, hey, I was pretty lucky?
We hit at a time where digital music was still pretty new. Bands were still making CDs as their calling card. That was how you distributed music, and vinyl hadn't really come back yet. So digital music was a small part of the pie, but it really wasn't how people were consuming their music. This is like 2009, 2010. iPods were huge, MP3s, but it wasn't. This is before Spotify and a lot of other streaming services. So there were a wider variety of young companies that were starting out, figuring out how to service the entertainment industry, film and television, with bands like us who were willing to upload their music digitally and share the rights for those songs just for that usage. We weren't giving away our songs, but if it was a great company called Jingle Punks, which became probably a multi-million-dollar company by now, them and a few other places who were servicing just select big companies that had a lot of TV shows under their corporate umbrella were smart to they needed to fill up their libraries. So they picked great bands. Now they picked good bands that had quality stuff who were willing to offer up instrumental versions of their songs. So if I was uploading, it was the time of our album Daydreams in 2010. So we uploaded all of Daydreams to Jingle Punks. It was Bob's idea, our singer. And he read about this small company that was starting up. He said, hey guys, we got nothing to lose. And they've had shows on MTV and VH1 and what other smaller cable networks at the time. And then in the small print, it was like, please also upload instrumental versions of your songs for maximum usage or maximum capacity. And we did. Right. And we started getting little bites. We started noticing on our ASCAP statements, every musician should be with a publishing company, which also costs nothing. We started noticing like, oh, something's going to change. 12 seconds of that was in a cooking show. Like, all right, that's weird. And that doesn't yield big money, but we had a song called Okay with a whole vocal section in Teen Mom on MTV through Jingle Punks, and that opened up the doors. It was like, oh wow, all these people are hearing this song and they're hearing a vocal of a band they didn't know, and then they Google the lyrics, they figure out who we are. Started that way. I don't know in 2021 that there are as many companies that do that on a smaller scale for bands at our level. I think it's harder to break into that. So I do feel like we got lucky, but I think we entered that realm at the same time. And Come Away, the reason Come Away also has probably more hits than most of our other songs is that it was on the Eric Andre show a few years after that,
right?
Through Jingle Punks as well. And then that YouTube clip of our music while Jack Black comes out has like maybe 300,000 hits. So then maybe, if 1 out of every 5 of those people, hey, what's that song? I want to find that song. Then they become a Sky Factor fan, hopefully. And those were the 2 biggest instances that really got us a lot more fans. And I think to this day still does, which is shocking, but I think it was just good timing. And that's my small advice, is any song you ever want to upload or try to get to some sort of music licensing company, pay the extra few bucks to have an instrumental version of it with no lyrics, so that it can go underneath the talking or the dialogue of the TV show. So the vocals don't fight each other,
Well, yeah. So I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, I think there's a publishing company that has approached him for streaming shows for sound-alike bands. So in other words, they don't want to pay the top dollar for, let's just say the Beatles, or not that the Beatles are doing that, but for something that sounds 60s, and they're going to use his instrumental. So just what you described, maybe it's coming around again.
Well, that's a very versatile talent. Yeah. If you're in a band or the type of musician who can recreate, I need a song that sounds just like You Really Got Me, but not quite the same. And
Right.
The Kinks brothers aren't calling us, Davis brothers aren't calling us back. I think that's actually a really smart way to get in as well.
All right. Well, we're going to take a couple seconds break here. We got something to play for the audience out there while you and I can go pee. We'll be right back.
Here at Novell Global, we are the industry leader in fine jewelry craftsmanship. Our handcrafted and custom designed rings, meticulously crafted from the finest precious metals, are perfect for all of your needs, whether that be for an engagement, a wedding, or for everyday fashion. All of our rings are made in America and have been since 1988.
And we're back. Rick and John, just
Jon
talking
and Rick.
music. Jon and Rick, whatever you want to say, whoever. So after, we just talked about getting music on TV shows, but you have been live performing for a long time, which we touched on in the beginning. You played CBGB's, The Cutting Room, The Bitter End. For about the last 10 years, I've never seen you with only just like friends and family at a table. You've had some pretty full shows. Is there a secret to that, or is it just old-fashioned networking?
I think we've really been lucky. I think the type of music we play and the fact that we are always kind of hustling and always talking up the band. Everyone's got a friend who's come see my band, It gets old after a while. So you also have to know how often to play. I always felt that way. We're not U2. We're not, Pearl Jam. We can, do 6 nights in a row and people are lining around the corner. But if you're smart about the sort of mid-level, clubs that you're playing, if you want to be able to try to get 100 or 200 people in there, don't play every weekend, play once a month, once every 6 weeks, if it's in the same market. Right. And for us, we always found that the more we paced ourselves, the more momentum there was for the next thing. And it truthfully, it allowed us a little more time to work on that new song or get another cool cover ready for the show. If we're playing every night, which is a beautiful thing in and of itself, but that's not exactly where we are in our lives. If we were playing every single night, sometimes you're just working to get to the next show. Here we have a little extra time to make each show special. And part of that is promoting and talking it up.
Okay. I mean, better than handing out flyers. I'll say that.
Which I'd still do that. We used to put up posters everywhere. I mean, obviously Facebook invites and digital marketing and emails are all wonderful, but I really think, I was going to say calling, but just texting, reaching out to people who are used to getting a mass email from you. If it's somebody you're friendly with or somebody you care about, shoot them a note or try to get them involved in some way. And there's a personal aspect to that I think people appreciate.
Yeah. I think, some guy who throws out a press release or two about your band, and,
that always helps too.
He's a handsome man, I'll tell you. At least that's what his mother tells him.
Right.
Now, COVID's affecting everything, obviously, this past year. A lot of bands are streaming concerts. A lot of the performances are a little lifeless. But, I saw you stream a few concerts, and I really enjoyed them. For you, though, how is that overall?
Well, it's certainly different. We never expected, obviously, any of this to happen. We certainly never expected to barely be able to interact, the four of us, let alone not be able to play a room full of people. So it was a quick adjustment. And the first thing we did, it's like a year ago exactly right now, the first thing we did once we all processed what was going on was to figure out, well, how can we keep writing music and keep in touch with each other creatively this way, digitally, over Zoom calls. And we found an app called Acapella, which I thought was really cool, that allows you to multi-track and record in real time. And the pro version of it was, like $50 a year or something. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And we wrote and recorded our first song that way in the post-Corona era called Streets of New York. And that, it was music that we had that existed previously. And our singer, Bob, who lives in Manhattan and was kind of in the thick of it, wrote lyrics that were inspired from that moment. Hope and rainbows in everybody's windows and trying to, praying for the first responders and hoping that everybody can get safe and stay safe and get to a better spot,
right,
was what inspired that song. And so that was the first thing we did in the pandemic. And that got a really nice response. Then we realized, well, now it's summer, it's getting warmer out. People are doing virtual shows, right? So let's figure out a place to play and stay 6 feet apart and get maybe a small audience 6 feet apart in a backyard. And that's what we did. My brother's backyard in the suburbs in New York was just the perfect spot. Get 20 or 30 people. Everyone was socially distanced with masks. And we found a little corner in the yard where it didn't sound terrible. And we got to play, and it was such a joy. It was weird though. We play outdoor shows a lot actually in the daytime. So there's nothing weird to me about that. But that, the dark, sweaty club vibe, right, being able to, just get on, when you're doing a solo, it's kind of, just getting right into somebody's face, none of that. Right. So this was like at a distance. And then we realized, well, we actually, because of the TV opportunities and because of the TV opportunities, but also Spotify and iTunes and our music living in those platforms for a long time, we actually have a lot of fans in other places and other countries who really, in theory, would never see us otherwise. So we turned it into a real positive by saying, well, maybe we're actually playing for more people in a way than we ever have. And we found that to be true. Instead of 150 people at the bitter end, which is a blessing every time, we had 3,000 or 4,000 people streaming our show, and we were getting like real-time chat stuff from France and London and somebody in Australia. Hey, I missed it. I missed it because of the time difference. Can I watch it? And then this guy watched our next one. So we actually were able to reach a larger audience despite the actual performance itself feeling a little different for us. So there was a real silver lining to that.
So you basically, you had a small audience, so it felt like you were there. But you missed the audience, the bigger audience, but you guys adapted pretty well.
Well, thanks. I will say, if there was truly nobody, if it was just an empty yard, it would have felt like a rehearsal, and we'd have to keep reminding ourselves to face the Zoom camera. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, having a crowd there was a smart move.
Yeah, like me right now, I have to remind myself.
Exactly.
Keep facing the Zoom camera.
Right.
We're gonna wind this down. One of the things I've always admired about you is you have a true professional life, but you continue to make music, continue to put things out there, continue to get in front of people. How do you balance both?
I think that's the hardest part for everybody. You got to find a way to, assuming you can pay your bills either through music or otherwise, if you have just enough flexibility to be able to pursue something you really love to do, I think the key is to surround yourself with a spouse, a partner. Assuming you're married with kids, which I am, and all the guys in the band are, I think you need to surround yourself with people that know this is this person's passion and has always been, and to some degree probably always will be. So I think if you have to have a support system around you, so that when you say, listen, the bills are paid, I brought in dinner tonight and I'm working my ass off tomorrow, but Friday night I'm playing a gig and I'll be home at 3 a.m. And we might go, take a long weekend this summer to play a festival somewhere upstate. You need people who will be like, that's awesome. Go have fun, or I'll come with you. So I think that's the number one thing. But for your own personal thing, if taking families out of it, if you're just trying to if you're just trying to make a living making music and it's not working, that does not mean that you have to give up music at all. Find something else creative that you love that's adjacent to that space. And if it's not, that's okay too. Just know that when you clock out at 5 o'clock, you play your guitar and write the best song of your life that night, and you play it for your friends, upload it, and you play gigs on the weekends. I mean, no one's stopping anybody from doing that. So I think the balance is what keeps me sane. I'm sure of that.
All right. My final question, which I'm sure people out there are going, thank goodness. If you started out today, okay, we in the beginning, we talked about, CDs and streaming and all the things you did to build your audience. But if you had to start from where you started in the 90s today, from nothing, in today's environment, do you think you would have enjoyed it as much as you appear to be now? Like, would you be having as much fun? Because when you talk about your music, I just feel the joy. It sounds corny, but it's coming through.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We it's a really hypothetical question. So I don't know that I could give you a true concrete answer. I don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy or someone who's like, when back in my day, but there's really nothing better than not even knowing how to tune your guitar at age 12 and having all your buddies come over in the garage or the basement and plug in and make a crap ton of noise, and it sounds terrible, but you had the best day ever doing it. And I just don't think kids these days do that anymore. It's kind of a bummer. I think bands are being formed in different ways, and there's a lot more, Ed Sheeran's and Philip Phillips solo singer guys who are creating amazing music, but they don't need a full band because technology has allowed it. It's frustrating because I don't know if I would have thrived or enjoyed it as much starting in this environment. I would look forward to sitting in a room with people and being, collaborative and having fun. And I don't know if that would be built into our DNA if I was starting just now, but I would probably watch concerts of bands I loved and say, oh, that's how it should be. And I still feel that way when I watch an old, you put on a Cheap Trick concert from the 70s or any band we love, there's no cell phone in sight. Everyone's fixated on the moment. And that's, we kind of miss that a little bit. So I'd like to think the music we make wouldn't be much different and the joy we get of it would be actually the same. But I think getting to that spot would be trickier. I also will say on the flip side, not to make this any longer, but technology and the internet and all these amazing things we didn't have access to, maybe we'd be rich and famous in a different way if we had embraced technology and started this way in a different way. Maybe different doors would have opened up, and we wouldn't have known anything any different. So it's a great question. I think we'd love it the same. Right. But I like that we cut our teeth back in the Stone Age when, you're sneaking into CBGBs and telling them you're 16 when you're not in order to get a gig. I kind of miss that. And I think those days are probably gone.
Yeah, I got thrown out of CBGBs once, but that's a different story for a different time. And
do you remember what New York City club we met at? Do you remember what club we met at?
It was Webster Hall. It was in the rock room upstairs.
Fourth floor
at like 4 o'clock in the morning because the band went on at 3:15 and played 9 songs and left. And it was just like 8 of us, right?
Well, maybe there may have been 20, but by the end, it was probably 10 people left, including the band.
If you do include the band and the crew, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, Webster Hall. That was a fun time. That was 1997 or 98. So I've known you for over 20 years, and I really do mean it. You're a lover of live music and a big supporter of independent artists at all levels, and I think that's really valuable. So everybody you do stuff for and with, I think, are very lucky to have you be part of their team, whether it's in the shadows or on the front lines. I think you're a very valuable asset, and I know the guys in our band always appreciate every time you and any friends and the wife you guys are at shows. That's a big deal for us. Because it's been a long time. Well,
you made me blush yet again. So we're going to leave on a high note. I'm going to say Jon Rubin, Sky Factor. It's always been a pleasure. Any last plugs you want to get in? You got anything coming up?
I mean, SKYFactormusic.com is where all our stuff lives, all the music from the 4 albums. And there's a lot of great videos there of live stuff, but also the 1,000 Sounds video, which does have a lot of views and hopefully keeps creeping up there. We have a brand new song we recorded actually during the COVID era. We recorded in person with each other with masks, at a studio upstate that we use for an independent film that should be coming out later this year. So that's in the film festival process, and they're looking for distributors, but it's a really fun, different type of song for us. Still very happy and sunny, so you'll love it, but a little more electric and a little more keyboard based, which fits the movie right. So there's something there, and that hopefully will get some legs shortly. And we're writing new songs for a new record. We have our first rehearsal in a couple weeks in person because some of the guys are vaccinated, and I think things are starting to open up a little bit. And we have a lot of new material, and hopefully there'll be a new album in 2022.
Well, I look forward to it. 2022 is going to be here sooner because these years fly by once you turn 40. All right, John, I'm going to say thank you very much.
Rick, thanks so much.
It was my pleasure. Now I'm going to just say sayonara. If I can in this day and age, that is.
Keep it up. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Ricky's Picks.
Well, hey guys, I'm back again for another edition of Ricky's Picks. Love the camera angle, probably the worst one on the internet, but you got to deal with it. I scour Spotify for some of the best unsigned, underappreciated, or just unknown bands to the American audience. There may even be a hit or two amongst the bunch. Imagine that. Going to kick it off with the Young Hearts, Still Wander. They're a nice UK band, solemn lyrics, cool beat, good melody. They've been around a little while, but it sounds like they found their footing. Nice to see. I have a hard time saying this band's name. I get a little spittle in the corner of my mouth. But the Moon City Masters, their song Taking It Back, it'll make you smile whether you like it or not. You're going to forget your troubles and you're just going to bop along. Cat Stevens said it's a wild world out there. It is. This will make you forget it all. We have Mammoth WVH. It's Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang. His song You Are to Blame is a chugging follow-up to that beautiful tribute to his dad's. I dare you to listen to that song and not cry. This is completely different. It's a chugging rocker. If I haven't mentioned that before, I probably have. But you know what? We're going to say it again. Chugging rocker. Say it 3 times. Chugging rocker, chugging rocker, chugging rocker. If you like Shinedown, if you like that mid-2000s sound, this is just for you. I love this song. Cadillac 3's Road Soda. Rock guitars, country-style lyrics. Have you ever been to a Waffle House? They have these lyrics, she's sweeter than sweet tea. That's all you need to know. And if you've been to a Waffle House, you will know. Drink that sweet tea, it sticks to your teeth. Hot Breath's Bad Feeling. Part glam, part punk, part garage rock. It's all fun. Up next, we have the Dust Coated Jimmy 2 Times. It's a funky tune that tells a story. It's kind of like Smooth Criminal, a little harder. Be sure to check out their very entertaining video on YouTube. Suddenly I pause for no reason. Again, we'll take care of an editing, or maybe we won't. It's all right. We'll just keep going. King, Never Give In. How does a UK band have such a Texas rock sound? I don't know, but they do it pretty well. I dig it. Johnny Monaco's LA Vacation. I just rediscovered this. This was from a few years back. It's Elvis Costello as if he was born and raised in California, throwing a tiny bit of Brian Wilson, throwing a tiny bit of 90s of that pop punk. I think it's biographical, but you know, who am I to say? PJ Farley's Let It Rain. It's jazzy, it's laid back. I start off sipping the wine when I listen to this song. I'm chugging it by the end. The guitars kick in. It's got a lot of layers. PJ was part of the classic 80s hard rock scene. He's really come a long way. I dig it. We have the Dead Daisies, Holy Ground. Well, holy moly. These are veteran rockers. They're showing the kids how it's done. It's a real all-star lineup, but they don't sound rooted in their classic sounds. Glenn Hughes' voice still cranks. He's been in Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, too many bands to mention. He's better than kids a third of his age. And yes, he's been around that long, that there are singers out there that are a third of his age. Finally, we have my favorite band from Manchester. These lads, Thunder. Last one, Turn Out the Lights. Danny Bowes delivers a great vocal. He's got urgency. He doesn't sound out of place with today's Black Honey, Dirty Honey, the honey bands. There's so many honey bands out there. It's diabetes for music, I guess. These are slightly older guys doing their thing. welcome back. Their last album was Too Laid Back. This one is just rocking right along. Want to be considered for Ricky's Picks? Email me your Spotify link, rick@gearguyspodcast.com. I'll see what I can do. Send me a t-shirt. Hey, I'll wear it on the air. Thanks. Be well. Sorry for stinking.